Hello everyone, welcome to your channel Data Science Studio, and I am excited to announce that we have successfully completed our 3 lectures and today is our 4th one. So let's get started. So today we are going to start with functions. So functions are basically of two types, which is built-in functions, which we have seen in the day 3 lecture as well, and we have user defined. So today we'll be talking about the user defined functions. And functions, as we all know, are a set of lines of code that are directed to perform a specific task, and functions runs once a call is made to it. Once you made a call to a function, the code will be executed inside it. We can also pass arguments in function, and there are two types of arguments. One is keyword argument, one is positional argument. So let's see some examples. So functions are basically defined using the keyword def, and here you can see that I have written a small function which is toSum, and I am actually passing the two parameters. So x and y are the arguments which is getting passed inside the function, and I am printing the sum. Now when I am calling this function, I have to call this function with the function name and I have to pass arguments. So this is one very simple way of writing the function. Now what you can also do is you can return a function can return a value, and you can save that value in a variable. It can return a single value, it can return multiple values as well. So here I am returning the value of z, and here you can see that when I am calling this function, we are passing 20 and 30, and the sum it will be printed. So let's run the previous example as well. So if I run this example, it will print the sum is 50, and when I print the next, it will still print the sum is 50, but the only difference is here it is returning a value. So there are times when you have to return some value from a specific functions. We'll be seeing all that in our data pre-processing stages. Next is, so the functions before which we have discussed, these are positional arguments, which means 20 will go to x, 30 will go to y. But there are keywords argument as well, which means you can assign a default argument to a keyword. So here x equal to 20, x equal to 10, and y is equal to 20, and I am returning that value. So if I run this, it will print the sum as 30. Now if you want to override this value, you can pass the parameters as well, which is arguments. So here I am calling the function and I am passing 40 and 50. So when I am passing this 40 and 50, this 10 and 20 will be overridden, so that the x value will be 10 and y value will be 50. So now just to summarize, in user defined functions, you can either print a value inside a function, which is like this, or you can return a value inside a function and store that in a variable. There are two types of argument, positional argument and keyword argument, and keyword arguments are the default arguments, the default values it can take. Now next we will talk about an important functionality before we going any further, is try except block in Python. So many times when we are writing codes, it is important that our code should not stop working. In such a scenario, we embed a try and except block in the code, so that if there is any error happening, it will go to the except block and perform the functionality over there. So the try block actually checks the code for any errors, and the except blocks handles the error. So except blocks will actually tell what needs to be done if there is an error in the try block, and there is a else block as well. So try, except and else. So else block code is executed when there is no error. Now there are many types of built-in error types, but I am going to discuss 4 key which we generally use in our data pre-processing or the data analytics or data science. One is your value error. So value error is raised when the data types are, when there is a invalid value which is provided. So for example, let's see that, so this is an example of value error. So here I am taking a user input and I am converting that into integer. So let's say that I am running this code. So the try starts with a colon, then indentation, and then you will write x equal to integer. So it will take a user input. So here I write str. Now integer cannot convert a str into a number. So it will throw a value error, which means it was expecting an integer and you have given it a string. So if you run it, it will say that it is a value error. Similarly, you have other error types. For example, you have type error. In case of type error is ideally raised when the data types are not appropriate. For example, here we are trying to divide a string with a number. So this is a type error. You cannot divide a string with a number. So if I run this, it will say that data type is not appropriate. And the next one is zero division error. So zero division error is raised when a division by 0 is encountered. So here you can see that I am dividing it by 0 and it will throw an exception, which is division by 0 is encountered. So we have seen the different kinds of built-in error types, and these are the predominantly used in the data science industry. Next, we are trying to write a function which will actually use the concept of try and except to calculate the factorial of a number. Now, what is a factorial? So factorial means that if you have a value, so let's say if I have a value of factorial 5. So factorial 5 will be actually equal to 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So which will be 120. So this is the value of factorial for a given variable. So we need to create a loop to do that. Now there are certain functionalities, certain rules which we have to embed. So now what I have done is I have created a factorial function. I have created a factorial variable where I have stored a value 1. Why I have stored a value 1? Because I cannot have 0, because anything multiplied by 0 will be 0. So factor will be 1. Now here I am using a try block. So first of all, my value should be integer. If I am entering a string, it should throw a value error, which will say enter a numeric value. Now another thing is that factorial can be calculated only for greater than 0. Factorial cannot be calculated for a negative number. In such a case, there is a command called as assert. So I am asserting that the value of x should always be 0, and if it is less than 0, then it will raise a assertion error. So that is also one of the functionality present. So now after that, if there is no exception, it will go to else block. That's what we have seen. Try block, except block, and then else block. So if there is no error, it will go to else block and it will iterate through all the elements of a number and it will calculate the factorial. And I am printing the factorial using the format method. Now let's run this function. So here I am first entering str. So it will say enter a numeric value. So I'll again run and I'll enter a -1. So it will say number cannot be negative because this is a assertion error. So I have to enter a right value. So let's say if I enter 12, it will calculate the factorial of 10 is 3628880. Like this. So let me just check it out. Yeah, let me just run it again. So here if I enter 5, same program you can write with a if-else statement as well. For example, here I am initializing x equal to 10, and if x is less than 0, it will say there exist no factors for negative numbers, and if x is 0, the factorial of 0 is 1, and else it will iterate through the number and it will print the factorial. So here it is printing the factorial of 10. Now if I change this to some string, or if I change it to a number -10, so it will say there exist no factors for negative numbers. So I have to have only positive numbers. So there are multiple ways in which you can restrict your program based on rules to do a certain activity. Now there is another functionality which is called as args, star args. So normally we are passing the parameters inside the function in a predefined way, whether it is a keyword argument or a positional argument. But in case of args, we can pass variable number of arguments. It can be 1, can be 2, can be 3. So here I am calculating a function. I am creating this as a arg. I am putting a star over it, and I am trying to calculate for each value of I in the input. I am calculating the sum. So here function of a, I am passing 4 parameters, and I am calling the same function again, and I am passing 9 parameters. So this is a variable number of arguments. So whenever you don't know how many arguments will go into a function, you will ideally do a variable argument. So now it will run a code like this. And the last thing the second last thing is there is a quark function as well. So quark function is used when you want to extract value in the form of a key value pair in the arguments. So here I am passing a value as a key value pair with a city and state combination, and I am putting a double star over it. So it is a quarks, which is keyword arguments. So for every key there will be a value. So you can access the key value same in the format of dictionary as well. So I am writing the city name is, which is I, which is your key, and city of I will be the value. That's how you access the value from the dictionary. So if you run this code, it will print the output like this. Another important function which we use very frequently is the lambda functions. So lambda functions are also called as anonymous functions, and they can be used with other user defined functions. So lambda functions actually return a single expression, but they can have multiple arguments. So let's see how we can create a lambda function. So lambda function is created using the keyword lambda, and here this is the argument and this is the expression. So I am calling this lambda function with the assigned value of x, and I am passing a argument 5. So 5 will be passed into a, and it will be 5 की power double power 5. So it will calculate 3125. Now another thing is you can pass multiple arguments. So here you can see I am passing 3 arguments, and I am calculating the multiplication. Now the beauty of lambda functions lies in the fact that you can pass lambda function inside a function. So when we are doing any kind of pre-processing steps, we kind of pass lambda function to do some functionality inside a function. So here I am creating a list, and I am creating a lambda function which will actually multiply each value of the list into 3, which is the cube. Now what I am doing is I am creating a list comprehension over here. So as I told you, you have to read from for loop. So for each value of A in list A, I am actually calculating the fun of A. So what is fun? Fun is actually the function, which is this lambda function, which we are passing inside the list apply. So once I call this list apply function, it will calculate the cube of each value of the list. So just revisit what we have done today. We have seen functions. We have seen you can return a value from a function. You can pass keyword argument or positional argument, try and except block. We have seen value error, type error, zero division error, and syntax error. And we have also seen how you can calculate the factorial of a number. And we have seen args and quarks and lambda functions. So please like, subscribe and comment about the course, and stay tuned for the next lecture. We will be posting it shortly, where we will be discussing some important built-in functions like map, filter, reduce, iter and isInstance. And we will see some 8 programs on the topics completed so far. So stay tuned and stay in touch.